Earlier this week, 5,000 people in New York City's Union Square were fed by food that would have normally gone to waste. The event, organized by Feedback, a British nonprofit, is the first of its kind to come to the U.S. and is meant to highlight the enormous amount of food waste taking place globally and to put pressure on food companies to clean up their act. So this was just this past Tuesday in Union Square. The event is called Feeding the 5,000. There's been more than 30 events since 2009 when it was first created, mostly though in Europe and Australia. But so this was organized by Feedback, as I said, is a British nonprofit organization founded by Tristram Stewart. And the first event took place in Trafalgar Square in London, and it's generally just the events are they're sit-ins, eat-ins rather, that are sourced entirely from otherwise wasted food, whether that be as a result of a surplus from food wholesalers or farms, and then obviously a lot of the food that's thrown away because of cosmetic imperfections, whether it's nicks or if a carrot's not totally straight or what have you. So this Feedback organization, it's partnered with over 40 organizations and chefs, including the Natural Resources Defense Council as well as the Center for Biological Diversity, and one of their main focuses is to also call for an end to unfair labeling and trading practices. It's trying to put pressure on supermarkets to purchase farmers' entire crops, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, this event in Union Square, there were 5,000 people that were fed different foods put together from these scraps. There was ratatouille, there was a torte of sorts, there were burgers made from beet juice pulp, et cetera. What do you think of this?
I think that it's great, but look, I mean, the USDA, they say that 1 in 6 people in this country, they deal with something called food insecurity. So, they go hungry. 49 million people in this country can't afford to put food on the table. This is an issue. We've got these, regulations that make it harder for people to access perfectly good food because of whatever reason. And I'm wondering where he got all this food, though. That would be my question for you. Do we know?
Well, yeah, there were a bunch of different food sourcers. There's people there were different chefs involved. And a lot of the companies that they agree that there's so much waste taking place. I mean, a lot of it has to do, as I said, with labeling practices, which are somewhat inconsistent depending on who you're talking to. So even according to Tristram Stewart, who's the founder of Feedback, he says, the date labels in this country are the most obscene that I've come across in my entire career as a food waste campaigner. The fact that all the different companies present different safety dates and guarantees of quality, even I'm an expert and I look at these labels and I don't know what they mean. What are the 90% of Americans thinking when they say they throw away food because of the expiration date? So yeah, I mean, according to the Rockefeller Foundation, who has partnered with Feedback, they've given some statistics in terms of how much we actually do waste. So, for example, even just in America alone, per year, there's about 63 million tons of waste. There's as much as 40% of what is actually grown and produced. It's $218 billion that's wasted on the growing and processing and transporting of these foods, et cetera. So the majority of that waste, about 83% of that takes place in just personal households, hotels, and restaurants, of course. I mean, I've worked at many restaurants in my life, and the amount of waste that they deal with is insane. But of course, even if they're contacted by people that want you to donate that food, there's all this liability issue.
I was going to say, is there a liability issue with handing out food that could that go back and hurt the restaurant if somebody gets sick because of
exactly like foodborne illness or what have you? But according to the statistics, so Feedback has actually convinced Tesco, which is a huge supermarket chain in Great Britain, they've convinced them to start reporting their waste, even for example with their green beans. Instead of snipping them at both ends, they just cut off one, which reduces a lot of the waste. So so far they've saved over 142 tons of food, and I think more than anything it kind of goes to show, if you have an event even in a place like New York City where people are like, hey, free food here, free food, and people are like, okay, and it's actually good food. There's nothing wrong with it, especially when you're thinking about, if you see a apple or something that just is kind of ugly. People are like, ugh.
We're talking about ugly apples here.
Yeah.
That just comes down to
exactly.
Undesirable fruit.
The bad apples. We're so about that. You go to Whole Foods or something like that, and everything's just like beautiful. Like we're so superficial when it comes to food like that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about something like this. When you think about globally, the fact that there's about 805 million people that are malnourished. I mean, according to Tristram, he's saying we have got to change the way that we label food dates. When this many people are going hungry, we should not be wasting the kind of food that we do.
It's shocking how many hungry people we have in this country. I mean, that's what's surprising to me. You know, we consider ourselves to be a wealthy country, and yet we're talking about 1 in 6 people go hungry. You know, there's something called this food insecurity issue where they don't have access to food. You know, that's astounding.
Exactly.
That's astounding.
Yeah, so we'll see how this goes. I think that this is a great step. I mean, there's going to be different events announced in Washington, as I understand, as well as Denver, and hopefully other places in the United States, because apparently, according to Tristan Stewart, all of you freegans out there are on the right side.